Welcome back to CSM Performance's YouTube page in our tutorial series. Today we're putting these components to use, doing a full setup on our 981 Cayman S. We decided to shoot this video in one of the smaller areas of our shop. This way we can replicate a tight area in a paddock or a single car garage or anything along those lines, and how you're still able to set your car up in a smaller space. Let's get to it. The first thing we're going to do to set up the precision hub stands to be ready to put on our Porsche Cayman is adjust the height setting to match the tires that we're running. So on our Cayman with the factory tire size, the tire diameter is 647 millimeters. And as you see on the right side, the millimeter marks are in 2 millimeter increments, which makes it really easy to just split them in half and get single millimeter increments. So we're going to place the line on the ball transfer mount between the 646 and 648 height mark. So these are just hand tight right now, so we'll just loosen them and we'll slide this up until we get there. Maybe just a hair too far. There it is. And we'll just tighten these back down hand tight. So here we are with the hub stand set to 647 millimeters of tire diameter. From here, we're going to torque wrench out and we'll torque these down to 65 foot-pounds, and then we'll move to putting them on the car. We got our 981 in, and as you can see, it's going to be a bit of a tight squeeze, so this is perfect for what we're trying to show. We have to take a couple ride height measurements that we'll use as a comparison. We'll get into some details on that later. But we'll take those measurements at the front and the rear, and we're just going to go up to the pinch weld. In this case, it doesn't matter where we measure it at, since it's solely comparative. And then after that, we're going to get the car up. We're going to use quick jacks just to show something simple. Get the hub stands on, the leveling pads, and get the alignment going. We like to start off using our suspension setup sheet, which is available on our website at csmperformance.com. It's just an interactive PDF that we like to utilize for all of our alignments. So we don't have any of the information up here yet for a caster camber toe because we haven't taken those measurements. However, we do know that it's a 2015 Cayman S, today's date, and where it's being done at. What we're going to go ahead and do is add this little section down in the notes for comparative ride height measurements that we can utilize once we get the car up on hub stands versus what we're going to take here in a second. So let's go ahead and get after the comparative ride height measurements. So we have 115 millimeters. 110 millimeters. Onto the other side. 115 and 111. We've got the Cayman up on quick jacks, the wheels and tires off, and the hub stands positioned where they want to go. There's a ton of tutorials on YouTube about quick jacks, so we didn't really dig into that, but just a couple quick tips, especially with the mid-engine car. The gas tank's in the front, so make sure the gas tank's full. It really helps the CG of the car when picking it up. And then another note that we're going to see with the hub stands are that quick jacks move the vehicle forward and aft because of the scissor motion. So we'll actually have to position the leveling pads further aft than where the hub stands are to make up for that. That's not a factor for cars with air jacks or using like two-post lift. That's not a thing at all, just with quick jacks. So just something to mention there. So now we're going to dig in and put the hub stands on the car. Now we're ready to install the precision hub stands. So we've got a 5x130 pattern, which is the Porsche standard. And our Porsche Pro plates also have a 5x130 pattern with the spherical seats for the Porsche lug bolts. So we'll rotate this, probably like 20 degrees. That way this sits straight up and down. And we'll start putting in our lug bolts. There's one. And then once we get two started, it'll hold itself. There's two. and 5. And these only get torqued to 30 foot-pounds per the instructions. This is just static loading. There's no dynamic loading, so they do not need torqued very tight. So we've got our torque wrench set to 30 foot-pounds. Go through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so the precision hub stand is installed on the front right. Now we're going to go through and install them on every other corner, and then we'll come back for the leveling pads. We now have all the leveling pads positioned under the precision hub stands, and in our case, again, because we're using quick jacks, we've got them shifted slightly aft. Chances are we'll have to adjust them again, but for now this is a good position. So now we have 2 tasks to complete. One is to make the leveling pads level, and the other is to make sure all the leveling pads are in the same plane. So to make them level is simple. It's just level on the 2 vials here, and you adjust the leveling feet until you get there. And then to put them in the same plane, we'll do a zoom in here in a second of our leveling pole, and that ties into our laser leveling system. So let's transfer over to the laser leveling system and take a look at it. So here's the laser leveling system set up. You can position this in the front, rear, left, or right of the car. It really doesn't matter. And in this case, we have it on the right-hand side of the car just due to space constraints. So what we're looking at here is we have it set to approximately 50 millimeters. That's just due to how level our floor is and other impacts like that. And then you can see the laser lines on. Now if we transfer over to look at the leveling pole on the leveling pad, which we'll do here in a second, you'll see the laser line is cast onto that pole, and that's how we're going to adjust it to get all the leveling pads into plane. So let's go ahead and transfer over there. So here you can see we've got the leveling pad, the leveling pole, the laser line from the laser leveling system, and there's this slot in the leveling pole itself. So we need to raise the leveling pad up until we get that laser line into that slot. So let's go ahead and do that. So you can't see it, but on the sides I'm adjusting the leveling feet up and down. And so you're going to see the pole come up. There we go, starting to move. And at the same time as you're doing this, you want to watch the levels in the leveling pads as well to ensure we're staying level. There we go, that's pretty good right there. We'll make sure all 4 feet are touching. And if you look, we're right in the slot on the leveling pole, and we're level in this pad. So we're going to do the same thing in all 4 corners to repeat this. Now that all the leveling pads are level, in the same plane with the laser leveling system, we went ahead and sat the car down onto the leveling pads. Now some things to note: if you plan on setting ride height, which we do in this tutorial, we want to make sure that we don't move the laser leveling system. Or if we have to move it, we either need to reset the leveling pads to put them in the same plane, or the easier answer is to adjust the height setting of the laser leveling system to put everything back to the same plane, because the ride height gauge utilizes the line from the laser leveling system to set ride height. Now the next step, we're going to take these safety nuts that go on the threads of the leveling feet and thread them all the way up into the bottom of the leveling pads. So we'll do that for all 4 corners. Now we have our precision hub stands installed, the leveling pads in the same plane and leveled, and the car sat down on the precision hub stands. So one of the really cool features of hub stands are the ball transfers that it sits on, that we kind of talked a little bit about when we went into details on the hub stands themselves in the intro video. So check this out. With the car on all hub stands, 1 finger, I'm going to push the car around and pull it back to wherever I want it to go. There's virtually 0 friction. So the goal here is to remove any binding in the suspension, so as we make adjustments, they're live and there's no need to jounce the car or do any of the things that you'd see done with turn plates. It's really a giant step forward in the ability to tune the car. In the next video series, we're going to talk about the lockout plates, the laser alignment system, setting ride height, and the caster camber gauge. Thanks for watching.